Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. Appreciate it. As we go along, like usual, you can share your own thoughts, opinions, and reactions to what's shown in the video, and also just talk about in general stuff as well. Okay? So as you can tell by the title, I am finally covering Lucin, Utah map analysis deep version. Okay? Similar to what I did with Montello, revealing all kinds of interesting places, containers, and abandoned strange spots. Going to do the same for Lucin to see if anything shows up, anything of interest. And this is the thing, okay? Just a brief little hint before we get into the video. I have covered Lucin before, looking at Dylan's farmland and the odd occasional area, including the mountain region as well. And although certain, things have been picked up on, in this video there's at least 30 plus locations, okay? And quite a few of them, if not most of them, I've not shared with you until now, okay? So let's get into Google Maps right now and begin analysing. Okay, so here we are. At first glance, it looks very cluttered. That's because I'm on mobile device, so everything seems much closer together than it is on the likes of desktop, but it will become clearer when we zoom in. In terms of color codedness, well, the blue is to represent, places of interest worth visiting. Maybe it's a farmyard, a small trailer building, which could house people, visit, ask them questions, interview them, whether they know if Dylan saw anything at the time, and so on. The orange places are kind of like the ones set in stone, landmarks, places we've already looked at fairly extensively, I guess. And that's like the grain shed, Dylan's farm, stuff like that, okay? And then there's some like green markers, which is more to do with ponds, okay? As for the black markers, they're like very strange places of interest or unknown of, to me at least, from my opinion, okay? And then the odd purple color-coded marker is just because I was like, it's kind of interesting, but it's not like, much going on, but it still looks kind of interesting, okay? So let's just start off with the blue markers. Bear in mind, some of this might be on the outskirts of Lucin or going into a different place, a different town, but I just wanted to, cover as much as possible because you never know. Looking at Montello, the distance from there to Lucin, and covering that, I might as well cover an extra bit on the side of Lucin too, like I did previously. You take into consideration the phone ping, 15.5 mile radius or something, which does extend over this way. So I did take that into mind as well, okay? So, just so you're familiar with things, right? Just zoom in here. You got the Waterhole here, okay? I'm not going to go on too long with these, places because you've seen them yourself. If you are new to the mystery, new to my channel, there will be a playlist or like links to videos down below in the comment section, which will explain it all in terms of previous map analysis I have done. Okay, so it's all under control. As for the coordinates, bottom right hand of the screen, hopefully they show up clearly. Be able to note them down yourself if you wish to have a look yourself, okay? So the Waterhole is right there, okay? The digger, which I picked up on previously in the past, where it looks like there's some kind of mining going on in this location. And here, in like a gully, There's a yellow digger, an excavator, which I kind of linked or associated with those track marks originally with the mob crew. I believe in recent time, the track marks in the wash, which I can share with you in a second. Okay, let me just move down to the wash. I'll zoom out. So with the wash and the way that's gone, mob crew came across tracks in the past, but that's supposedly by search and rescue. So I think that's debunked now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the the last thing I heard of the situation. You see the wash here, I believe it's this one. It winds in and out. So that's another key spot. The phone ping is, or was marked here within the 15.4 mile radius. Okay. The grain shed, which people have said Dylan does not own this land himself, and that Jim Brenner, also known as James Brenner, who was squatting on this land, was said he was squatting, but supposedly he wasn't squatting because he was the caretaker of this grain shed, as you can see here. You can leave your thoughts in the chat about that. It's just what I've heard here and there with the odd comment. So yeah, there's a grain shed. Sun tunnel right here, as we've seen previously with the back in time travel. And then over this way, Dylan's farm with some like farmland there. You can see the marks. And then his trailer should be here next to the pond. So we've seen them, we've looked at them, but I just wanted to recap it whilst we're here. Now, first spot we're going to look at is number 1. Now, apologies if it does take me time to try and locate all the numbers because they are scattered about, okay? So we just zoom in here. Got the coordinates bottom right corner of the screen. I'll just flip it so you can see exactly where it is. So, not too far from Dylan's farm, okay? You see all the markers in that. And this area seems to be some kind of farming property. I know where people did say just a handful, maybe 4 properties within the whole area, which are run or so. We just zoom in a bit closer. Hopefully you can see that. So it appears to be a farm. On the left here, fences, probably for animals. I don't know if it's pigs, horses, but some kind of farm life. I know people have been saying about pig farms. I don't know where they are or if they exist in the area, but as we go along, if you see one, feel free to point it out, or if you think you see one, leave a comment down below, okay? So, while surrounded by, harsh environment, this farm, bear in mind, 2019 imaging, I call it a farm. I might be wrong, but, you've got a red barn here, which then goes into a small paddock, if you call it that. You can see the gates and fences, some are open and some are closed. Kind of brownish, the ground. You got a few containers, I guess, or open boxes. I know one individual, forgot the username now, said that some of the objects you see aren't containers, but they are for feeding animals or water troughs, bigger containers for that, for the animals, wildlife, fair enough. You got a few things going on here. Could just be junk, but it looks like you've got a white truck or white car there. And there's open top boots at the back where you can just chuck stuff in like the Ford F-150 Raptor. Some of the barrels or boxes. Kind of like what we've seen previously, so not a big jump there. I don't know if that's a roof or something, but there appears to be quite a few, I guess, tyres resting on top. Quite a few of them, to be fair. bits of junk. You got like I guess like a blue shed right there. And then you got this big construction here, which is a bit bigger. It looks like another barn of some sort. Yeah. And then further down, okay, appears to be some more like buildings of some sort. I'm not sure what they are. If you know, feel free to comment in the chat. All seem to be similar shaped, thin but fairly long. A blue square object there, and then another, shed, it appears to be. Bear in mind, some of these square boxes could be kind of similar to what was seen in Salty Pancakes footage when at, where was it, Dylan's grain shed, because I didn't see it on the aerial view. I just saw square, just like a flat square, but when actually there, it was almost like a chicken coop. I don't know if it was literally a chicken coop, but it had like proper 3D shaping to it. So I think at times the only way that gives it away that that it's a proper object is when you see the shadowing, and this has shadowing, so it's raised from the ground. Okay. Over here we've got some interesting buildings. How far does it go? Just wanted to see. Okay. That's quite a bit of land, that, to be fair. I'll just flip it so you can see. I will measure the distance to Dylan's farm shortly, okay? So, from the looks of it, so far, it does not look abandoned. A big building there. That could be the house. Could be, I'm not too sure. Looking at it from here, but there's a possibility that it's their house. Big one, yeah. By the side of it seems to be another like barn or garage, something like that. Fairly long. If you know the owners, the people that work there, live there, who might have already been interviewed or need to be interviewed, just like mention it in the chat if you want. But yeah, that's interesting, that. And then down here you got another building which definitely looks like a house, and there might be a vehicle parked outside, I'm not too sure. I see some white object. But yeah, two fairly big buildings right there, as you can see. And that's in the middle of nowhere, where for the most part of it, it's just vast, it's empty, and if there is some form of life, it's people in trailers or a small little camp, even with Dylan himself on his farmland. And yet here you've got proper established buildings. So are they more successful farmers? Yes, no? Do they run a different business? Have they ever worked with Dylan? Has Dylan ever worked here? They're the questions we got to ask. And if you already know, feel free to clear things up down below. That'll be appreciated. So you can see the texturing of the ground. It looks very dry, cracked, rough, and rugged. Despite that, you can see like a square box there, outline. So you got the which looks like a road, a path, and then it goes up this way, and then you see how it's divided into sections like grids, like a grid square. When you zoom out there, it looks like circular, a big circle, and several of them, if you can see. You see those like lines? It starts there in the middle, small circle, and then the radius gets bigger and bigger. Now, I know some people will already know what that is and stuff, I know. But I just wanted to point it out to you to show you the farmland. And yeah, so really this location, and I'll just do the distance now. I'm only going to do it very roughly, okay? So not like too high end. Let's just say there's a road up here. let's round it up, about 7 miles, which isn't that far. I mean, for Dylan to walk 5 miles, it was okay for him, so an extra few more miles isn't that big of a deal. So, yeah. So with it being kind of close together, it does make you wonder, do these people know about Dylan? I'm asking that question because I wouldn't know myself personally because I'm not there. So yeah, that's the question. Do they know of Dylan's disappearance? Have they ever worked for or with Dylan? Or has Dylan worked for them in the past? Do they know of Jim Brenner? Have they seen Dylan in recent time? Like recent time literally, but also just before he disappeared. Did they see anything whatsoever or not? And have police, have explorers been to this farmland to ask questions, to interview him, to try and find the truth? Do you get what I'm saying? Good. So that's number 1 done. Okay. So location number 2 is actually further on up this way, where there's like a mass of different locations which we can cover in one, okay? So let's just do number 2 first. So this is what I came across, okay? From the looks of it, seems to be maybe a shed, not a storage container exactly, but like a shed or a shack, some kind of shelter for storing maybe a few resources under. I mean, if it's all locked up, then that could be worth investigating. I just want to point these key spots out that are in the middle of nowhere, isolated, in which if not many people go to or ever use, maybe somebody else is making use of them, such as the suspect, the criminal behind Dylan's disappearance. You know, I'm still going across that theory that, tying it in with how some people say Dylan is right on this land, or at least in this area, roughly speaking, incorporating it with my map analysis that, okay, the reason why he's not been found is because he's either buried in the ground in a certain spot, or he's held captive, locked up in a container, a shed, a barn, something like that, okay? And this could be one of them. You can correct me as we go along, whether it's been searched or not, but if we can piece it all together as one, it might help. Now, there is a few dirt roads that branch off, as you can see. Just rotate it slowly. Got the digger over that way. Dylan's farm over that way. Bit of a distance further out, north, I believe. Well, actually, no. More northwest, I'd say. So, yeah. You got a few items chucked outside, maybe like piles of wood and scrap. Whether that's entirely interesting or not, it's worth just pointing it out. Something there could be a log. There's a few track marks that branch off. Now, nearby, there is a pond, as you can see down here. Just a small-sized one, but it seems to be filled up with water. Not a drought, not dried up yet. Could vary with timing, you know, in 2020, 2022, it might change, but you know, just under the impression that there is a pond here, and at a point in time it can fill up. The theory of, could Dylan be within this area? Could he have been dumped here? Either to do with that building, and if not that, could he have been dumped in a pond like here? Now, the pond at Dylan's place of living, his farm, was searched and nothing was found, but have the divers, have the search and rescue, anyone investigated the other ponds within the area? Just like with those water holes in Montello, how there was numerous ones all around, as we saw. In this place, it's more to do with ponds. So could he have been chucked in and he's at the bottom of the water, the ground? You know, if not many people pass by, they might not see it. So that's the next question. That's the next theory. Could he be here, or could he be in a pond? Okay. Just zoom out a little bit. So it is isolated from the other locations and the markers, as you see over there. Number 3 is back there, followed by number 4, so I'm not going to get lost, thankfully. You do notice a few other little markers show up, which I will share with you now. Let's move on to the one over that way. So going northwest, I think, following that road, you do have a container over here, which is on the side. This definitely looks like a container. If you know it's something else, leave a comment. It's very white. It looks a bit too long for it to be an RV, and you don't really see any definition or anything showing on top as you would with all the others. So there is that. There's a few like little white objects nearby. I'm not sure what they are. Like feeding containers, water containers. I'm not sure. But if this is a container, could Dylan be inside of it? As you know, you might hear that language being used quite a bit throughout the video, but you know, it's just ideas, because you can't just go in and say this is where he's at, because you know, I'm just looking at an aerial viewpoint, but I just want to cover every angle just in case any area has been missed. So any explorer, investigator comes along can see this video and either tick it off or add it to their list. Okay. So just flip the image again so you get an idea. So you see it's isolated in this spot along with that pond. Okay. Montello over that way, going into Nevada. Okay. You got Tacoma Valley over that way. There we go. Now, let's move north this way. And you can see one of the first black markers I've added. Now, when zoomed out, you don't really see anything. When you get a bit closer, it seems to be like a dirt road that branches off. And then you got this here. Now, I'm not sure what that really is. It's interesting that you got all this vegetation scattered around, as you can see, in those like little squiggly lines. This dark vegetation there from the looks of it. And then there's a little clearing, a circular clearing in the middle, which has, I don't know if that's a pond or some kind of water hole. I'm not sure. It's very dark. And then you got this like little green circular thing there. I don't know if it's a big container, a big drum, some kind of cylinder thing. It looks 3D. I don't know if it's a feeder or dispenser for wildlife. If you know what it is, feel free to leave a comment down below or in the chat. I just thought it just stands out from, you know, the area itself, everything around, and even from this distance, you see that just that one green object and your eyes lock in and you think, oh, I wonder what that is. Now, I'm sure if planes or helicopters have flown over, they might have seen it already, but I'm just interested to know what is it, and if it is something for storage, could Dylan have been hidden inside? Because even though there's a clearing, there seems to be a fair bit of vegetation around it, surrounding it. So it's worth taking into mind. Okay. So let's turn back and go south. And we'll move on to number 3, which is over here. Now, it's kind of interesting, this one, because as you look around, obviously over there it's very flat. But as we get into this location, you've got these like big mounds, little hills, not quite mountains, but raised enough. And it just stands out like a little viewing point. And this one specifically, you've got a few dark holes there, as you can see, 2 on screen. I'm not sure if they are caves or just like cracks in the ground. But it's just worth pointing it out, because if it is a cave, maybe someone could be in there. But you see how like it's raised and then it goes down, then it's a flat surface all the way around, and then it drops back down again. It's interesting. And the one thing that does stand out on this part, aside from those like potential caves, is on the side you got this white like square box, and it's like, what is it? And like, why is it there? Who put it there? Is it just junk or some kind of storage compartment? I'm not sure. Just one of those things that stands out from, you know, the surrounding area. So yeah. And those black holes as well, as you can see. Interesting. Make sure I don't miss anything out. So we'll just move on down to that little purple marker where it says clearing. And from the looks of it, you know, I don't know if it's like a turnaround point, because you can see almost like a horseshoe track mark there, like someone's turned back round, or if it's just a pond. It could be a pond based off the colouring of that. I don't know how deep it is though. Maybe it's dried up, depending on the time. But yeah, just wanted to point that out because there's a few roads that go off, as you can see. Unfortunately, apologies if it is a little blurry at times, the screen. I honestly think, because it's on mobile, the positive is crisp, sharp image, based on what other people have said as well. But at the cost, the processing at times is a bit fucked, as you can see, where areas look blurred out. But not much you can do about that. So yeah, this spot. Now what we need to do, we need to move on to number 4, which is back that way, approaching Bald Eagle Mountain. So let's come down here and see what this is all about. In the distance over that way, you got majority of the markers, including the grain shed. I'll just flip the image just for now. And this is kind of interesting what shows up. Now, there's a few track marks that branch off, as you can see. There's even a circular one there, or almost like a circular. And they just go off into the distance, like man-made marks in the ground. Here, you got the main road, I guess the highway, which, when you look at it that way, is one that goes into Montello. And there is a cut-off here. You can come off, and then there seems to be some kind of buildings here, but I don't know what they are. Is that an RV? It looks like it could be. It seems to be parked up in one of these allocated slots where maybe farm life would go to. Because you got the fencing. It looks like you've got some logs as well. It just looks like there's some kind of construction going on. Or like a little box there. That's kind of interesting. Because you can see the outline of it. There's definitely something there. But it's not quite clear to make out. Now, the question is it abandoned? Or is someone actually living there? Such as like that. If it's completely abandoned, then maybe there's not much going on, because I've not really seen many opportunities to dispose or hide of someone unless buried in one of these allocated slots in the ground. Dylan, if no one goes to it, if no one farms in the area. No one would be unearthing the ground, disturbing it, so you'd be able to get away with it. But yeah, let me know if anyone has been here. As said, coordinates, bottom right corner of the screen, okay? And you can see the track marks as they branch off in different directions. Right. And now as we just zoom on out, we will approach number 5, which is much further this way, and it's east over here. There's a couple of them. We'll just zoom in here first of all. Now, I don't know if this is another example of a lake or waterhole. I just wanted to put a marker here because it did stand out to me. The surrounding bit, you got these like lines. I can't imagine being track marks, but it just looks weird how they stick out like tentacles. And then here it's just dark and it looks deep, and there's a redness as well. Kind of looks creepy when you look at it from this angle. I don't know if it is a lake. It looks very dark. Maybe it's the timing, the colour, the lens. I'm not too sure, but if it is some kind of deep lake or deep waterhole, could Dylan have been taken here and dumped in? Who knows? Or maybe anyone else who's gone missing, tied up, bound, weighted down, chucked in, said I can't float to the top, or be never seen. So that's kind of mysterious, that. And the way it's surrounded by the environment itself, if I just flip the image, it's not, doesn't really show, but the darkness and the different colours of the ground and the surrounding area does seem to stand out more, to be fair. Right, so number 6 is actually further down this way here, and I might have just briefly mentioned it in one of my previous videos when we were doing the Wendover gas station analysis and the distance check. So this runs alongside this dried up, or this lake, this big lake. By the side, you've got the mountain border, which goes all the way down. So parallel to Pilot Peak, you can see everything over that way. And it's down here on the lower ground, there appears to be a few buildings. Could be farmyard related stuff. So we'll go for each one. So in this area here, there seems to be designated spots once again. I don't know what they are, tubes or hay bales or pipes. Seems to be a couple of them, one next to another. Some little small objects there. Overall plots for something. A few track marks, most likely for farming, either growing crops or attempting to grow something. See a few little objects stand out, something yellow there, some like container there, small one. And then down here, a bit more established, you got like a barn there, fair sized one for storage. You've got a red truck there, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's a Ford F-150 Raptor. This is 2019, so Dylan could have been visiting somewhere. You never know. I just thought I'd just bring that up. Some corrugated roofing there of a building, small one. More like resources, maybe boxes, pallets or wood. Here, kind of interesting. It's like some fencing with gates on. Kind of all over the place. Not sure what that is, but it's probably for animals. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. Animals or crops. Then you got some kind of building there. White truck parked up just outside. That was like a little gas or container canister. And then down here along this road, You got a few more allocated patches here, square boxes, where there's more greenery from the looks of it. They look like water towers, or for water, maybe. Or it could be silage, maybe, one or two. But fair sized, definitely for the farm. And you can see the growth and the progression made. Looks a bit rough there. And you got a few like objects down the side, which looks to be attachments and trailers for tractors, for the crops, the land. So it all seems very organised and in place. It's called Donna Spring. Seems to be another allocated patch there and a mound in the middle. Some kind of vehicle there. And then from the looks of it, maybe the farmhouse where people live. So decent land. Looks like they've done all right. Got a nice view in the distance over that way. The question is, this farmland, this area, once again, do they know of Dylan? Have they seen him before? Have they worked with him? Has he worked for them? Do they know anything? And have they been interviewed themselves? Because they are on the land, so it would be worth finding out. Okay? Leave your thoughts in the chat. Let me know what you think of this area, these buildings. There's a lot of detail and quite a bit going on. I wonder how many people work here as well. Okay, so that's number 6 done. Let's move on to number 7, and this actually goes back to where we were before with number 5, over this way. So number 7 is the chop shop. Now this is what the odd person was referring to in a previous video, tying it with Dylan Rounds. I personally am going to do a standalone video theory based off this location, okay? So I might be a little short in my description here, but I'll go more in depth in a future video, okay? So this chop shop, just flip the image so you're aware, surrounding area. Further out, east, you got Desert Peak in the distance. You see how sparse and empty it is now, especially the flatness. Very flat, not as many obstructions, and yet there isn't much showing in the distance, as you can see. Graham Peak that way. Pilot Peak over that way. And the rest of the markers, as well as Dylan's farm that way. Not too far from the chop shop. What is a chop shop? I believe it's like a scrap yard, but that's like the American way of saying it. If we actually zoom in, you can actually make it out what it looks like. So you do have all kinds of track marks going all over the place, as you can see. I don't know if that's people testing cars out or just messing around, but there's a couple of them scattered about. And then in the centre, you've got, looks like an RV trailer there. You got like one of those digger with the arms, which appears to be holding a piece of scrap, a scrapped car in mid-air at the time of when capturing it. You got a few like containers as well scattered about. Looks like another RV there, or truck, white vehicle there. So we're being in the middle of nowhere, and you got all different kinds of vehicles and cars just dumped around. Most likely, most of these aren't in use, but it does make you think, is this a business? Is it official? Or is it just a random place people just go to just to dump their vehicles if they no longer work or they have no use of them? Does anyone actually live here? And the questions being, has anyone actually investigated this site? Because it does seem quite important, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be to do with the suspect or maybe Dylan, or both, may have been taken here. I'll just leave it at that for now. Okay, just brief teaser. But yeah, video exploration of this area might reveal something, might get an idea of what it looks like on ground, boots on ground, and if there's any clues, bits of evidence. Have the police searched the area? I'm not too sure. I don't think so. So very interesting. And over that way, we've got number 8, which we'll move on to now. And speaking of the track marks, it actually goes in that direction. So we'll just follow it along. Oops, and see what else shows up along the way. There seems to be yet something else there as well. A white box. A few little objects scattered about. Don't know what that could be. Let's just keep following this road. Eventually, as you can see, it does turn off to the side, but we just keep going up this way. And it comes to this bit, which, once again, flat, bland land, as you can see. But it's much darker here. You've seen the texture, and I don't know if that's natural or if it's the camera to blame for that when the image was taken, satellite image. Maybe. It just looks very dark. I don't know if that means it's damp, wet, or something else. You can see almost like a horseshoe once again. This like path, this dirt road where vehicles have turned around. But the thing that stands out to me is this object here. Can you see that? What's that? Is it a truck, a trailer, container, a barn? It's hard to tell, but there's definitely an object there on the side of the road. If it is some kind of building or construction, is anyone inside of it living or being held captive, hostage? Who knows? Is it worth investigating, maybe? Coordinates bottom right corner of the screen. Apologies if there's any background sound. There's an ice cream van coming again. Okay, so that is interesting. Right, number 8 has been cleared on this checklist. Feel free to investigate there if you wish to. Now, we need to go on to number 9, but I do remember making a slight mistake. The chop shop was number 9, I think, and not number 7, which I actually forgot to include before, is back over here. So apologies about that. I say it's a little bit messy, but hopefully you can follow with me. Not too far from the grain shed. Just do a quick distance check. It is to do with Dylan, this, I believe. And there is an actual road and pathway to it. About 1.70 miles, as you can see on screen. Now this area here, and when people were typing it in, I kept getting confused because people kept saying BRAS, and I was thinking, what, the bras? Like, why is there like a shed full of bras? Like why? You know, what's happened to all the people without bras on? Are they just running around wild? I don't know, but I think they mean brass, the brass shed. That type of material, brass. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess it might have been the spelling, or, you know, how certain words can sound the same as one another but spelt differently. Maybe it's like reverse way around, but screw that anyway. As you can see, just do a quick scan around. You do have sun tunnels over that way. Jesus Christ, that train's loud. Sun tunnels over that way. Pilot Peak there. A few little markers scattered about. And a grain shed over there. And you got that thin line, track marks, which then goes on to the grain shed over that way, which is actually near to the gate itself, this gate. So all close together, makes sense if it's being used for farm related stuff. When you get down here, appears to be decent sized square construction, which is supposedly the shed. Decent sized. All kinds of stuff can be stored in there, the brass and bits and bobs. There does appear to be something there, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Could that be an excavator? I mean, it's got the shape of one, and then it's got almost like an arm stuck out at the about there. I can't zoom in anymore, but it looks similar to the digger, what I showed you earlier on in the video. So maybe. Got a few like wood pile stacked around the back. Interesting. Here appears to be maybe a container. It's hard to tell, but some fair-sized object. And the question is did Dylan come down here at some point before his disappearance? It's not too far away from the grain shed. Did Dylan have to come down here to do a certain task, put something away, get an item from here? Could he have been ambushed in this spot and then hidden in that shed, that building, or taken somewhere else? It's interesting. Could the suspect have come down here at some point? And who owns this bit? If Dylan doesn't own the grain shed land and somebody else does, do they also own this spot here where number 7 is marked? Did the police investigate this area? That's the big question. I know they looked at the grain shed, search and rescue did as well as Dylan's farm and the pond, but what about here? What about this spot? You know, any evidence? Anything of interest? As for normal explorers, hikers, YouTubers, they might be limited or have been previously, like Lance and Ty, following the rules, not going on the land. Some other people a bit rogue, a bit more on the spot, like Salty Pancakes, with a bit of guidance of Kurt or somebody else, was able to get on the land, which people might criticise, but at the same time it was good to be able to provide a perspective on ground at the time. Is it possible for someone like him or somebody else to maybe come to this spot, as the coordinates are marked bottom right corner of the screen? It's just worth pointing out, you know what I'm saying? And some people said this is a key spot which has not been talked about or covered, so that's why I wanted to share it with you properly on aerial shot. So yeah, that's number 7, the brass shed, not the bra shed. So we just zoom on out, face north. We then move on to number 10. It looks like we're skipping a number, but it's because this chop shop is unmarked and it's a part of the sequence. So number 10 is back over here, as you can see. Flat land, and it's like, what is going on here specifically? Hopefully you can see. So it looks like there's a few track marks. The main thing is it's like the surrounding area. You see that? Big, it's dark, it's black. Is that another lake? It looks deep, it looks mysterious and creepy. And you'll notice a pattern of these. Here we go. If you wonder why it gets darker, I think it's because of the timing once again when certain images were taken and captured and it's been stitched together. So that's why it goes darker, okay? You see a couple of these, as I showed you before, all in a line. Are they water holes? Are they little ponds or something else? The surrounding area looks dried up. But these little spots, these patches, dark and black, which could mean different things. Shadowing, depth, it goes in like a hole, or some kind of dark water. You can see, look at that, all those patches. I mean, it's an interesting place, at least from an aerial viewpoint of Lucin, because it's very diverse, the colouring and the texture of the area. In one spot, it's very dark red, the ground, and bushy like texture. In another spot, it's very green all of a sudden. And then for most part of it, it's just very dry, dusty coloured, dried up type stuff. In the odd spot, you might get almost like salt, white patches, mounds. And then you move over here, you're getting these dark spots and holes. The ground itself, look at the texturing of that. It looks like snake skin. All scaly. Weird. That might be from like a drought, how the ground has dried up where it was once wet. But you can see. Now the main purpose of this spot location is if there are holes here and you can dispose of something or someone, is there a possibility it involved Dylan and the suspect taking care of Dylan? It's isolated again, further out, no properties nearby, so no one would see anything. And you've got different options to dump Dylan in. That's if it is a hole. Just looks a bit spooky in general. So, where is number 11? We're back over here. As I said, apologies for going all over the place. It's just how I mapped it out at the time. So, we've gone back west. We're near Kilgore Ridge. Okay. Few pathways and stuff. Just flip the image so you get an idea. Bit higher up elevation wise. Bit further over here from the digger, the waterhole, as you can see. Did I show you that? Yes, I showed you that one earlier, that green circular thing. Just wanted to check it off. Apologies. So let's check number 11 out here. And we do have a bit of activity. We have some kind of construction, buildings. Interesting. As I said, apologies if the image quality isn't great. From the looks of it, what do we have in total? Some kind of trailer, some kind of object there by the side. It's like a wagon carriage, a trailer. Black circular thing there. White building there. Another object building there. And then this fair-sized barn. And round the back of it seems to be a smaller one with a white circular dish. So that is interesting. It makes you wonder who owns that piece of land, who owns that barn. Is it Dylan? Somebody else? Interesting. You just zoom in a little bit more. There seems to be some equipment there. I don't know if it's a tractor or some kind of other farming piece, but interesting how it's just scattered and dumped. So yeah, that is interesting. And you got more greenery there. Doesn't seem to be any houses or buildings nearby when you zoom out. So I don't know who actually owns that. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, there you go. Maybe it's worth checking out this area, seeing if anything's around or anyone to ask questions. If you know yourself, like these areas, if they have been explored, if you have visited yourself, or if you know someone that does own this land, feel free to leave those points. Anything is appreciated in the comment section or chat, because it might indirectly help somebody else. It might even bring in the right people. It might encourage some to look more into it. Who knows? It can have a chain reaction. So any ideas, feel free to list them. Coordinates bottom corner of the screen as said. So that's it for number 11. Face north. It is almost on the border, so it's worth taking in mind, Nevada. Number 11. Where is number 12 now? I think it's over here. Yes, it is. Good. Right. Okay. Hopefully the image quality fixes itself very shortly. We'll just let it render. It does take a bit of time. So at least it seems to be working a little bit better this time. You can see as it loads bottom left corner of the screen, and now we are in full view. So number 12 appears to be yet another farm, a fairly established one with a fair bit of land, the surrounding area. It's near to Muddy Creek Reservoir. Now the actual land itself, there seems to be some kind of shed. Yeah, there is a shed there, as you can see, small one. And then you got this vast farming field, fairly green, quite big in size. Yeah, interesting. But let's just take a closer look at this part specifically. So there's a few like objects scattered around. If you know what they are, feel free to leave a comment. Once again, you got these like designated slots again with fences on. What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. Is that? Well, from the looks of it, it looks like a trailer or a truck, and then it's got an arm coming off the side of it, holding a crate. I might be completely wrong, but that's just how it looks from that angle, my perspective at least. There appears to be something white there, maybe an RV trailer. Don't know whose it is. And a few more random items here and there scattered about, like boxes. The main bit here though, once again, similar in terms of the style of building. It was like a barn, and then another like storage place, probably for vehicles and equipment. I don't see any houses though if that is the odd trailer like here, that might be what they're living in, because Dylan Rounds managed it himself, didn't he? So maybe that's what other people are doing as well. Once again, it's that idea of, do they know of Dylan Rounds? Have they seen him before? Have they been interviewed, interrogated over that way? So there's a bit of distance, but still I think it's within Lucin. If not, you can correct me down below, but I just wanted to cover it anyway. Look at it from this angle. Hopefully the image quality is reasonable. It does seem to be struggling as it's loading. Okay. Get from that angle. Yeah, it's hard to know what that is. Okay. So that was number 12. I'll just make sure we're facing north. Now, if we move on further north, nearby is number 13, the key spot over here. As you can see, maybe it ties in together. We just have a closer look at this area. There appears to be a clearing of some sort, brownish, the colour of the ground, like track marks of some sort. There does seem to be something there. I'm not quite sure what that is. It might be a trough. I might be wrong. It could be a trough. It's difficult to tell, but if you know, feel free to leave a comment. You see all like the different roadways, how it branches off to one another. Just quick observation of the surrounding area, just in case I've missed anything or not. We'll check. Is that the highway? It must be, because you've got a truck there, so it's near to the highway. Okay. Seep spring over there. Okay. So I've got a feeling this area here could be linked to the spot down here, like a farm. You know, with Dylan Rounds, how he operates 5 mile distance from his farm to the grain shed, and he operates in both areas and visits, so the same can apply to other farmlands. Okay? As said, if you know anything of this area or number 13, feel free to leave a comment. Okay? So that was number 13. We need to move on to number 14 if I can find it. Number 14 is back down here, okay? And what's this all about? It's got to rejog one's memory. It's interesting here because there we go. There we go, I found it now. So just get an idea of the distance. Do it down here. 5 miles to the grain shed and back. About 8 miles to the farm. Interesting. But this area here where it kind of goes into a bit of a small mountainous area, almost at a dead end. You see what I'm saying? There's an opening here, and then once you get here, it kind of closes off a bit. Well, there is like a little road here, but you're kind of trapped in a dead end. When you're in a dead end, how do you escape? That's the question. But we zoom on here. There appears to be yet another crate or container, something at least, maybe for storage. And whilst you do have these designated spots, what is being stored inside? Drugs, farming equipment, quad bikes. You know, I don't know, it could be one of which. Could Dylan be in this one held captive? I mean, there's quite a few containers, as I said, quite a few of them spread about in desolate areas, and the ones that are in the desolate areas seem more likely, more of a target area. Coordinates bottom corner of the screen if you wish to visit it or look at it yourself in some way, okay? As I said, if any of the YouTubers or people like that, boots on ground, who have been to a spot like this, or at least know that the police have been here, feel free to say, okay? So far, chat, what do you think of Lucin? Despite it being such a desolate, empty, vast place, there seems to be a fair few places of interest to look at. You know what I'm saying? Kind of interesting. Okay. We zoom back out and we go to number 15, which should be up here again. Okay. And this is actually approaching Park Valley. Now, I want to do Park Valley in a future video. It might even be the next one, who knows. As you know, I did do a ground level one, street view, looking at the area, mainly tying it with Chase Venstra and that whole ordeal at the time. But I'm thinking of going back in time. Do you know like what I did in my previous video? If you haven't already checked it out, make sure to do. Some important, interesting findings within that, going back in time. I'm thinking of doing the same thing for Park Valley. I might give it a try. Let me know if you would like to see that yourself. Now, linking back to this, and you'll notice we're going to move on to the ponds since they're very close to one another shortly. Now, number 15 here is near Warm Spring Wash, okay? Let that load in the texture. And yeah, apologies about the silence, I'm just waiting for it to load. This is yet another area where you see like pathways, dirt roads, and then kind of like weird patterns in the ground, which is probably just from the track marks. But you look here, once again, there seems to be another almost like container of some sort. So the coordinates at the bottom corner of the screen. Could Dylan be in here? Who knows? It's fairly clear, the image quality. Now, you got some few little items back here, a little box there. I don't know if that's a water box, grain box, something for storing maybe food, resources of some sort. But yeah, interesting that. And they all seem to be the same length as well. Makes me wonder, when were they placed there and how were they placed? Like, was it like trucks driving around the whole area of Lucin and then unloading them and then driving off, putting them in designated spots, or was it some other kind of machinery used? I don't know. But yeah, I just thought, once again, with it being isolated, it could be something. Some object there, resources of some sort. But yeah, interesting. Flip the image slightly. Circle, navigate around. Warm spring wash nearby. A few ponds as well too. So yeah, that's number 15 done. I'll zoom on out. Facing north. As said, I don't want to go too far north because one, I don't want to go out of Lucin, but also two, you can see more established farmland further on up, and that seems less of a dodgy place for where a suspect would go because there's people there, witnesses, and if it's active land and Dylan was buried there somewhere or hidden, the farmhanders and people that work there would probably find out about it sooner than later. So, kind of the same reasoning to Montello as I explained back then. Now, I believe I showed you the first pond earlier on in the video. There appears to be a second pond over here. The first one was west. This one's far east, okay? Is it going to load up? I don't know. Yeah, it kind of does. You can see that outline and pattern again of the pond. You know, it could well be dried up right now, but at certain points it will fill up, okay? There you go, that's clear enough. I don't know how deep it is, that's a big question. If it's deep enough, then something could be dumped in there. I mean, it could even be something random like a car or a quad bike of a missing person in the car or in the boot of a car, recklessly driving and then ends up crashing into it. I mean, if you've got lawnmowers in the middle of a desert, you've got other kinds of weird items and stuff buried in the ground, then it wouldn't surprise me if the odd car or form of transportation is in the ground as well, like one of the ponds here. So this was pond 2. And it's one of those things where, okay, search and rescue and police might have investigated 1 or 2 of the ponds, but what about the rest? You know, it's worth checking all of them, right? So that was pond 2. Okay. So pond number 3 is over here. Let me just make sure I'm facing north so I don't get confused. All below Park Valley. Okay. Go here. Let that zoom in. Not much going on there. And taking a closer look at pond number 3. Similar characteristics as the previous ponds in colour, the shape, the size, probably to be expected. The surrounding area, interesting in texture and colour. You got dark green, you got dusty white coloured looking stuff, grey, almost like gravel-like terrain. So numerous things going on. You do see track marks branching off from that dirt road. Interesting. Makes you think, are they driving by the pond? Are they going to the pond for something? Yeah, interesting. It does make me think, are do any of these ponds have fish in them? Like, could you go fishing? Or is there not much life going on in there because of the quality of the water? That's just worth a thought. Is there any frogs within? Maybe Julie can catch a frog from one of the ponds. Anyway, let's move on to pond number 4. You can see they're all closely tied together. And this is near Peplin Mountains. Have you seen the texture of that? Crisscross. Nice quality. This one's a little smaller on the side of a dirt road. But once again, it is what it is. It looks like it's dried up a little bit because you can see the outline of it, so that's worth taking into consideration. As I said, the coordinates are bottom right corner of the screen if you wish to look at them one by one. Pond 5 is down here, and this one's surrounded by near Dove Creek. Okay, so black dove, white dove. If you're watching, this pond is near Dove Creek. And this one seems a little different compared to the others. I don't know if you still call that a pond or a lake, because it is a fair size, that. Not wide, but pretty long and surrounded by trees. That is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's private, if it's owned by someone or not. You almost got that root-like texture on the ground. That's kind of weird. Can you see that almost like root pattern? Why will it not let me flip the image, bitch? There we go. Can you see it? That's kind of weird. It literally looks like roots. What are they? Just a pattern? Water? I don't know. But it seems to stem from this pond or lake area. Now this is the sort of place where you could dispose of someone because of the size of it and depth, most likely. Seems to be a bit of a clearing around it, but yeah. It's tucked away down here, lower ground, tangent peak over there. You see how it sinks down? Sinks of Dove Creek. Peplin Mountains over that way. And then pond 6 further up there. Do they connect with one another underground, like the water, or not? Okay. Let's move on to pond number 6 over here. Once again, check the surrounding area. Make sure nothing stands out. Huh. Look at this. Benzin. Is this a wash or not? Small river. I'm not sure. But it does sink down. The depth of it. Can you see? And then once again, you got a decent sized pond. Could be much deeper, that, to be honest. The way the ground is around it, the terrain, how it's kind of steep. It could go in a fair bit, because this is the thing, like when you get quarries and you get these like lakes and stuff, on the surface on top, kind of wide, looks all right, and you step in it, well, normally you don't, but let's just say you did, and it's like, oh, this isn't too bad, and the further you go in towards the middle section, that's where it's the deepest, and if it is used or previously used for excavation, you're going to drop down. It's that shock in the body when your legs no longer touch the ground and it's just boom into darkness. So yeah, another decent sized place. Now this one is marked, called Peplin Pond. If it's marked, then maybe it's more of a known place, maybe, or at least people that check maps out will see the name of it and think, oh, let's visit ourselves. So maybe the other ponds are more of a desirable location for disposing of someone, and a place like this might receive too much attention over time. it's just worth taking it into mind, you know. So, yeah. Look at the surface area, though. Interesting. I wanted to try and go down here because the terrain is like up and down, twisting and turning, and it goes down at a gradient downhill, bends and winds. So maybe if it floods or something, it will trickle all the way down and maybe it will collect somewhere. Okay, so we've done 5 to 6. Now we'll do 6 to 7, which is back down here. Surrounding area, brief look, kind of darkish. Seems to be like a pattern on the rocks, the terrain. Dark spot there, but that's just shadowing. Okay, I just wanted to check the surrounding area. You've got like a mini pond here, a baby pond. Look at a little baby pond. Well, I think it is. It does look almost dried up. You've got these thick dirt roads. And then here you go, pond 7. Once again, similar to pond 5, the length of it. I mean, the water looks clear-ish, but yeah. I don't know if people actually visit these ponds, like what's the actual purpose of them. Are they natural ponds or man-made? If they're man-made, what they're for? Collecting water for farms, for filtering, cleaning up, or they're just randomly there, just naturally. So for like frogs, fish, or whatever type of wildlife, birds, just to get water from, and so on. But yeah, in this area we have seen a pattern of a fair few ponds, so there's enough options and choices to dispose of someone. If the main lake is dried up or something, let's just say, and you've got these ponds nearby, which might be in the shade, lower down, doesn't dry up as quick, maybe they've done it that way. The other possibility would be if a pond or lake has dried up but the ground is still a little bit moist or wet, maybe someone might have dug a bit deep, put a body in, filled it up, and then it filled with water, and it's like 2 layers of coverage. Who knows? I'm not an expert when it comes to disposing of someone, so I wouldn't know. Okay, so did I cover number 16, point of interest? No, I didn't. The last one we did was number 15, and then we moved on to the ponds. Let's return back to areas of interest, blue markers, number 16, which is here. In between the ponds lies this place. Once again, main dirt road there, branches off, few track marks scattered about, and this one's kind of interesting. It looks like you got some wreckage there. I don't know if it's something that's been burnt down. It looks black, looks like twisted steel. Bit of a clearing in the middle, and there seems to be a shed there and an abandoned looking shack with old, looks like corrugated sheeting as a roof. So this is interesting because it looks dodgy, it looks abandoned, it looks like there might have been a fire, some kind of wreckage, and it's like, who lives here? Or does anyone live here at some point? And who owns these sheds, or who uses them? If they've not been used for a long time, then maybe someone like Jim Brenner could have visited, you know? In his mindset, if he is supposedly the caretaker of the grain shed, it might get into his head that he's the caretaker of other areas. So he wants to take control in his own delusional thoughts. I don't know, could be, could drive him. With him being in Lucin, driving about from time to time, that's if he does that in the past, he might have learnt about these locations when driving by and thought, oh, I remember that spot. Maybe I should go back to it to get rid of Dylan. You never know. Coordinates are bottom right corner of the screen. I definitely think this is a key point of interest just because it does look dodgy. It really does. And it's right in between those ponds. You know, on the left-hand side, pond 4. On the right, pond 5. So you don't have to go too far. Interesting. Flip the image slightly so you get an idea. Tangent peak is over that way, overlooking. The rest of the markers are over there. Peplin Mountains once again. Park Valley over that way, more north. Dove Creek to the right next to pond 5. So yeah, that is interesting. Number 16 complete. So now we need to find number 17, if I'm correct. There we go. So now we're moving south. We're going down south. Approaching, well, near to Wendover, almost. And it's down here. There's a couple of different spots. Now, I don't want to spend too long on this area because I have a feeling it could be military land, okay? Some of you may already know what the deal is with this area. I don't, because I don't live there, okay? So that's why I'm only going to do it brief. And if anyone does highlight it as an important place, I will go back to it in a future video, okay? So, not too far from Aragonite, the 80 numbered highway. Flip the image. So on the other side of that, Salt Lake or Salt Flats, whatever you call it. I said majority of those markers are over there. But you go down south, southeast, let's say. You got some places here. Appears to be a main road. You got Grassy Mountains HP to the right there. Great Salt Lake labelled. And coming off this road, which branches off to the left, number 17, you seem to have this, I don't know what it is. Is it farmland? What is that? You got like a white box just dumped there and some like mound. Is this for crops? Is it a runway? Hard to tell. It looks like dirt though. And down the middle you got a really dark patch as well. So is that like, and then you got something there as well. It's hard for me to tell. But if you're a farmer, you might know. There is a cross in the middle, divided, so with these allocated slots, it might be for farming on. Yeah, you got another box there, and you got track marks too. So it might be for farming on. And then it gets a bit lighter coloured up here, but quite a bit of surface area to be honest. That appears to be another pond from the looks of it. But like next to it, in between this like farmland, the crops or something, and the ponds, it's like these weird like little pods. Can you see them? What are they? They look weird. They're circular, got white stuff in the middle of them, and there's there's multiple of them. That's weird. A few more there. The more distinguishable ones are these because they look almost like perfectly circular. I'm just trying to figure out what they could be. If you know, feel free. Anyway, let's move on to number 18 because it's nearby here. Zoom in. Look at that truck. I don't know if it's an abandoned one or if it's currently in use at the time. It seems to be open at the back, but you know, that discussion of previously, could Dylan be buried underneath a truck of some sort? or hidden in the grain truck. And the grain truck said, nope. Family responded to that question in the East Idaho news channel saying the police did look in the grain truck and Dylan wasn't there. Some people are still saying that Dylan could be buried under the ground on his farmland at his trailer underneath his Ford F-150 Raptor under the ground. Other people think that Dylan could be elsewhere underneath a truck or inside of one. Could this be just like a little example of that? Maybe. I mean, it's 2019. If this truck is in use, obviously it will no longer be there if you look in 2020 or 2022. There's certain objects you've got to acknowledge and understand that it could be truly out of date. But other stuff that's longer lasting, such as a farmyard, a container, most likely will not move, because you can't just move a house. You can't just move a container just like that as easy as a trailer or a vehicle. So I do take that all in mind. Now the actual land itself looks like there's a lot of track marks and activity. You see that ruggedness of the area. You see the depth as it increases, and the height, the elevation as it picks up and builds. So there seems to be some kind of activity at one point because of the clearing. Now, if we go on to number 19, just before that, there seems to be, more roads upon roads which branch off. And once we get here, look at this. Mass containers with some other items there, whatever they are, boxes of some sort. Look at that. When you get like a shipping yard, it can look something like this, but this ain't a shipping yard. But there seems to be all kinds of different coloured containers, and some look rusty looking, very old. So they're very old, maybe, they've been there for a bit. See the way they've been allocated in that pattern, and then that little box in the middle there looks like it has like a fan on the top of it of some sort. Could Dylan have been taken here in the middle of nowhere? Maybe. It depends if it's in use. I mean, it looks like it's on a main road of some sort. And what the hell's that? You got more ponds there, as you can see. Each time you look, it just reveals more and more of the area. Even though it looks so empty and just dead, when you zoom in, the more you zoom in, the more detail you notice, and the more that's revealed. That's why it's necessary to have these marks on, because you can't see everything at first sight. So yeah, interesting. If this isn't in use, if it is accessible, providing, maybe it's worth checking this area out, because it looks a bit spooky, looks a bit quiet, a bit dodgy. So yeah. And as I said, based off my language, if it is available, I'm not for certain. Okay, take that in mind. Now, as I said, number 19 up this way, there seems to be like a compound of some sort. Square box, we zoom on in. A few like containers and boxes scattered around, track marks. A few trucks. That looks like a bloody boat. I don't know what that's doing there, but it does look like a boat of some sort. Some proper trucks there. There could be military, to be honest, and trailers too. I mean, it does seem a bit quiet. There's like a barn there, or like a proper storage place. It seems to be fenced off, actually. I think that seems to be like a security, like an entrance point for checking who goes in and who comes out, I guess, with a car nearby. So maybe this is military. I know people did say about military in the past, but they didn't say exactly where, so maybe I might have stumbled upon military land. Okay? So maybe it's probably not a good idea coming here. And over Grassy Mountains HP, I don't want to spend too long, as I said, but you've got certain spots here like that. Like, what the hell's that? They look like hangars of some sort. And do you see how many there is of them? Look at them. Tanks, aircraft, I don't know. Oops, get off. But it's all in sight, all in view. And it just goes on and on. Do you see what I mean? There's a lot going on here. And I don't know if I can find it again, but you got that weird thing there. We zoom in here. You got a fucking jet. But I don't know if it's in use or not, or if it's abandoned. Leave your thoughts in the chat. What do you think of this location? Are you aware of it? People who live here or like nearby will probably know. So just leave your thoughts down below to correct any mistakes made. And also when you do rotate it here, that looks like it goes underground. You see it's like almost like a cone funnel shape, and there's an opening at the front and it just goes into darkness, which goes underground from the looks of it. So it looks like a military area that. I just wanted to show you it now, maybe for a future video, okay? So as I said, we've done 17, 18 mass containers and number 19, which could be of military land. So we've got to take that into mind. Let's head back over west towards the shed. So what are we on? We need to find number 20 now. Number 20 is over here, and the rest follow. Right, let's zoom on in with number 20 and get an idea of the spot. So this isn't to do with buildings, but it's to do with like levels of activity. So if you link back to the previous point at the start of this video, the digger location where it looked like there was mining involved, some kind of digging. This area seems similar in terms of the colouring of the ground. Now, I don't know if that's how it was naturally or if it's been unearthed. This spot just looks like a clearing, as what we saw with the phone ping area. Up this road though, this one here, as it winds in and out, this does seem like there's been some kind of activity at some point. You can see the discoloration, how it's a bit brownish in areas, and do you see how pure white that is? That's so bright, it's brighter than my future. Wow. But there is a bit of depth to it, and it's making me think, was it dug out? Did someone dig out the the surrounding area when mining? Kind of like what we saw in Montello in the mountains. Did the same happen here? Is Dylan associated with this spot whatsoever, or is it somebody else that does the mining? I mean, it's in kind of like not exactly a canyon, but you got mountainous areas surrounding both sides down this like dirt road, and it's a bit higher up in elevation when you look at the surrounding area. So interesting, yeah. Let me know your thoughts of this, because speaking of the whole mining situation, could Dylan have fallen down or been chucked into a mine shaft, an abandoned one? That's the questioning of that. Number 21, which is down here. Look at this spot. Now, I'm not sure what this is. At first I thought a pond, then I thought a waterhole. Maybe it's neither. Leave your thoughts down below, because it's circular, so it could be a waterhole. And so is that. That could be a pond. I'm a bit unsure about this. I mean, if it's a pond, once again, could be, was he dumped in? If it's a waterhole, could he be dumped in? And if this is a waterhole, was this anything to do with the whole dispute over the water claims and conflict and tension in the past with certain farmers? Just worth taking into mind, just little points. Maybe it's a place of interest, maybe not, but I just wanted to mark it down, okay? Let's move on. Number 22, over here. Getting closer to that digger, as I told you about earlier. Just see the surrounding area. Not too much going on, not from what I can see. As I said, I might miss the odd thing, but it is kind of difficult to see everything at the same time by one person. Right, number 22 is kind of interesting because, okay, it appears you've got some kind of pond here. Much more murkier, greener, the colouring of the water, so that's not exactly a good thing. Nearby, do you see how it's like got that Spider-Man web effect? How it's spread out those like weird white things. I don't know what that's for, but I see a pattern of that in Montello. Wherever there was a water hole, what followed was all this like white root like pattern effect. Or like what we saw at one of the ponds earlier, where it looks like roots coming out off the side. Bit weird. But here, you got a couple of things going on. You got the pond, and then you got some like weird black thing there. I don't know if that's a storage container. I can't really see any shadowing. It might be something flat on the ground, but it's dark, it's black, and it stands out to me. So if you know what that is, feel free to leave a comment. And then nearby, you've got this weird thing. Once again, it doesn't look 3D, but it's definitely almost like a square. So it's like, is it vegetation shaped as a square? Is it a fencing? Is it some kind of power station? I don't know. It just stands out to me. Those three things in a small space. So if it needs exploring or investigating by someone who's interested or believes there's more to it, the coordinates are bottom right corner of the screen, all right? In terms of the surrounding area, they do follow 23 up that way. Red Butte or Red Butte over there. Rabbit Springs BLM. What does that mean anyway? Because I heard it in the Kenny Veach mystery where they kept saying about the BLM, and I kept thinking, why are we even talking about that movement? But then it must mean something else, but I can't think of the other alternative meaning. So, yeah. You got Lucin Airport down there, south that way. Digger location there. Montello over that way. And then the other location's what we looked at earlier. So let's move on to 23. As you can see, there is a road though, so they do connect to one another, so there could be a link. Let's go down this long road. And what are we greeted with here? Well, it's a little bit rough, this texturing, but this is how it appears. So once again, you got a clearing there in the middle of nowhere, so I don't know what causes that. Few trees, bit rugged, but it's this bit here. Can you see it? What's that? Is that another container, or is it like pallets, poles, wood dumped on top? Because what we've got to remember is from an aerial viewpoint, kind of like at Jim Brenner's trailer, where Lance referred to those like wooden beams, those long ones piled on top of one another, not far from Jim's trailer. If you looked at that from a viewpoint, it could look like something as you see on screen right now, or what we saw earlier in the video. But if this is a container or some kind of storage thing, maybe it's worth taking a look at as well. It just caught my eye. It's much harder to see compared to the other spots, so who knows what it could be. Leave your thoughts in the chat if you want to, or if you know, okay? So yeah, there's quite a bit going on, to be fair. What are we on to now? We need to find number 24. So it's back down here once again, next to number 14. Zoom on in. What's going on here? So there isn't much here in terms of building structuring. But once again, you've got like a clearing, the odd few track marks. There's a track mark just there. Faint one. It's this bit here. You know, it's like little, like almost like a parking bay or something. What I don't get is what's those black lines? It's not a train because this ain't any train tracks, but what is it? It looks small even from, you know, aerial view, so I don't know what it's like on ground level. But is it a marking, a road marking? Is it an actual object? Poles, beams, bits of metal. I'm not sure. Leave your thoughts in the chat. I just wanted to share it with you because it just stood out to me. You know, when you zoom out, you just see those black lines going across, dotted along. Kind of interesting. A few more track marks there, as you can see. So, yeah. And then once again, you got that weird light coloured stuff on the ground as well, which you saw at Dylan's grain shed scattered about. Now, when I went back in time with my previous video, those areas, such as you see on screen, the brown patches disappeared. Well, didn't exist in the past and then appeared. So it's like, what caused it to show? Someone digging up the land and then creating a mound? Could it be that? Because like the mound or the burning pit at Dylan's grain shed back in 2013 didn't exist, but 2019 it did. It appeared man-made. So maybe the same applies to some of this stuff as well. So that was number 24. Number 25. Where's number 25 now? Back up this way. Okay. Number 25 is near Devil's Playground recreation area. Oh my god, I want to go to Devil's Playground. Does anyone want to come with me? Anyone want to hold my hand? Yeah. It doesn't look too devilish, in my opinion. Okay. Just standard dirt roads, different texturing in the ground. Not too much going on here. You've got another pond there, but you can see it's how it's dried up, you know. It looks like it could have been deeper at some point. And then on this side as well. It looks like there's almost like a dam in a way. You can't see it because it's not 3D, but it looks like a bridge or something, or it looks like 3 different pools, like swimming pools, but not literal ones where you'd go in. Interesting. So once again, these like little areas could have been used for something. Anything else going on here? Have you heard of Devil's Playground before? Have you been here? Is there much to look at, to explore? I can't really see too much here. This might be the one area where I'm like, I don't know why I marked it, to be fair. There must have been something I saw. Huh. Oh. No, I just can't really seem to see much here. Just aside from that like pond area. No, not too much is shown, but you get an idea of the surrounding area. Sand wash, red butt, bovine mountains. Okay. Right, we'll leave this location. But if I go further back past Sand Wash, heading, is it south? Got a few little track marks here. So, okay, you got another dirt road, as we've seen before, like this. Branches off to the left, cuts off. Almost like a clearing of some sort. Bit weird, I don't know if people park up here or get onto the land for some reason. And then just randomly in certain spots, you got all these like tire marks again. And it's like, how long do these tire marks last for? Considering when people were saying about with Dylan Round's case and exploring the area and the farmland, how certain track marks remain but others don't because of the light. They're not deep ingrained and the ground's not wet, then it's not going to show. And especially if it's compacted the ground, less traces. And yet you look at a place like this and you can see them, can't you? The spiral effect, donuts. Was it ATVs, quad bikes, dirt buggies, or trucks, vehicles, cars? I don't know. And why they're doing it. Is it like activity groups going out for the day at certain times, meeting up, or just friends just driving about, having a bit of fun, messing around? Or is this land restricted? I don't know. Or could it be people that live nearby? But you see, it like starts there, swirly spiral effect, comes down here, swirly spiral effect, more swirls, and then ends. So it's like, what's so special about this patch, this area? Why is there track marks? And we saw it at that, was it a reservoir or a lake? Further south, if you was approaching Wendover, if you were passing by the Great Salt Lake on the side of the mountain border between Lucin and Montello, well, Utah and Nevada, you had that like little lake, as I showed you in a previous video, and there was near to it where it was dried up, you had similar patterns and track marks. Either it be the same people causing it or different groups, but like, is it gangs, just groups of friends, activity groups set up, or random rogue outlaws messing around? I don't know, it could be anyone, anything. You know, it's an area of unpredictability, so you never know. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Right, so we've done 25. We need to move on to 26, which is further north, back up here again, and it's near to number 12. Let me just zoom in. Okay, I must have missed this. Damn, good thing I picked up on it. So, okay. I want to make sure I don't miss anything in between. Oh shit, damn. Okay, so we've got a few unmarked places which I'm just going to cover now, okay? Might as well do it while I'm on the spot. So, coordinates bottom right corner of the screen, as you can see, once again looks like farmland. I don't know who exactly owns it, but it does look interesting. Quite a bit of greenery as well. Is that like a lake? I'm not too sure. It looks like lakes. Huh, interesting. Another lake there. Nice water. There seems to be a pipe there where water might come out of. Containers. Some kind of digger, excavator maybe, or tractor with a trailer on the back. John Deere, most likely. Hey, we've got an RV. Look at that. White truck. RV parked up where they must live and also work, kind of like Dylan, on site. Abandoned, rough looking shed of some sort there, with some resources just on the outside. Interesting. And then down here, more land. Once again, you got these designated spots, zones with fences and gates. Yeah. Got something white hidden in those trees, whatever that is. Not quite sure. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, you got that RV there and the lake. And we just rotate the screen. How far away is it from Dylan's land? Fair distance, to be honest. So maybe they don't know about Dylan. But you never know. Is it worth visiting down to this farm, this trailer, knocking on and asking whether they know anything, maybe? Who knows? Anything else of interest? Not much there. Was it this one? Yeah, this one here. You see? You got like a storage container back there, down that like little narrow road. Some other items dumped there by the side. Under the trees appears to be some kind of equipment. Trucks on the left hand side, parked up. Deep track marks, as you can see. Actually, there's a couple of cars here parked there. So there's a bit of action going on. Another one of those proper RVs set up in place. So they must live there on site. Bloody hell. That is quite a few RVs. Are they all in use? They all work and live there at the same time? Interesting. Near to that, what's that? Are they tents? You got people camping out there as well? I don't know. Look, odd shaped and different colours as well. And then something else there and something else there. It's like a little camping site. Something else there as well. Make sure to make notes of the coordinates bottom corner of the screen right now, because this is kind of interesting in the area, especially those like little objects and items. If you know what they are, feel free to leave a comment down below. That will be helpful. To me, they do look like tents, but I could be wrong. And yeah, connects onto that long road down there. Oh, I don't know what that white line is. Is that a border or something? I don't know. A bit dodgy. The one spot where there's like so many RVs in one spot. Crazy. So, past this area, which it might not even be a trail, it could be almost like a bridge, because you've got these like arms that go down it almost. You go through like a bridge. And then further down here, a clearing with almost like a shed or a barn. Interesting. So yeah, there you go. Could this be a location where people might know of Dylan or something? I mean, there's a lot of trailers, so could Dylan have used any of these RVs in the past if he might have been working on land on a different farm, maybe, at some point? Or maybe somebody else like Jim, I don't know, or even Don. Who knows, like if they've worked in other places in between or before, you know, it could tie in together somehow. Who knows? But yeah, interesting. Let's look at 26, the main one I was supposed to be looking at. Now, number 26, got a few things going on here. Looks like barrels, containers, or little boxes and barrels mainly. Is that gravel? You got quite a few cube boxes of some sort. Appears to be a truck there which looks like it's full of gravel or dirt in the process, so that's interesting. Up here you got yet another excavator, and it looks like the exact same model and design as the one earlier, which is, can I show you it on the spot? I don't know. Which you see here. That one looks the same as this one, if I can find it again. There, same exact model and style. So we might get similarities with certain track marks shown. At the moment, it looks like it's in use, this place. Once again, you got another red truck, which is kind of interesting. Probably not Dylan's, but just wanted to share it with you. So I guess this is like mining. Look at that texture. It looks like what you see on that like tiramisu. But yeah, this is kind of similar. Not in terms of the same amount of progress or activity levels, but like some of the texturing and the colouring of this looks similar to like what we saw closer to Dylan's land. Now, depending on how I flip the image, you see the depth. Look at that. How it just suddenly dips down in the middle. You see the depths, you see the layers of rock, the grains. So there's definitely been digging going on. I don't know if it's still in use, probably. Could this have any connections with the previous location, what we looked at, where all those trailers were at? Maybe. There's definitely a possibility. So if this place is in use, it's not likely a location where Jim Brenner would go, or Don Hatley, or Chase Venstra, or Dylan would, be taken to, from the looks of it. So maybe we can rule this one out. So that was 26. Now we need to move on to 27, which is back over here, as you can see, and it's on the border. You just zoom in. Now, this is an interesting one, okay? So in the distance, you've got Tacoma Valley. You're near to the Nevada border, which is there. Over that way, you got Montello, and further on, Murdoch Mountain, going west. Behind south, you've got Bald Eagle Mountain. And then east, you've got, all those other locations. And southeast almost, you've got Dillon's farm from over there. This area, though, look how red it is. Once again, we're seeing that again. I know, I can't remember what it was. Was it sagebrush or something? A certain type of plant where it goes red. You can leave a comment down below. I think it might have been ivory. Not the actual ivory, but the person with the username called Ivory. I'm sure she brought that point up last time about this ground and colouring. I might be wrong, but just from memory. But whilst you got the redness scattered around, red, raw, rough, rugged, not exactly a pleasant sight, but in the middle, you got some stuff going on, and I don't know what it is, but it looks like some kind of maybe barn or a wreckage or something. There's all kinds of white stuff and like bits of like lines, bitty bits, objects, like it's been knocked down. You see what I'm saying? I mean, there's a faint pathway to it. Let's just see what's nearby, okay? It seems to be like marks, yeah, tire marks. Right, so let's just move back further. Interesting. There's a few more little objects there, and then that kind of looks like a house. From the looks of it, it does look like a house. So, is someone actually living there? Or is it abandoned as well? Abandoned just like this here. But it definitely looks like some kind of wreckage. And if that's the case, or like, let's say an unknown dodgy person lives within this area, it might be worth going to check out. Coordinates bottom right corner of the screen, okay? Interesting. This is one of those spots to me which does stand out, which makes me think, oh, it's a bit creepy looking because of what it's surrounded by. It being isolated once again, it looks like a wreckage from aerial viewpoint, and then you got another random building down here, and I can't seem to see any cars or trailers. So, interesting. So that was 27. Now 28. Where is that one hiding? Make sure I've covered everything. Over here, yep. Okay. 28 is down here, and it's near to the Waterhole and the grain shed. And we've got another black marker there, which we'll get to in a second. But let's just take a look at number 28. Now this spot appears to be similar to number 27 or 26, the one I was previously at, where it looks like the ground has been dug up to an extent to get some kind of resources, material from it. It looks like it's been, like the skin's been ripped off and exposed to a gaping shallow hole. I might be wrong, but there appears to be a clearing, so something's been there. And it's like, what was retrieved from it? Was it salt? Was it just dirt, grain to be taken elsewhere? Gravel? I'm not sure, because we've seen the odd truck previously carrying certain loads, so maybe. Just wanted to share that area with you, okay? There's not much to it though. So that was 28. 29 is down here, triangle effect. 28, 7 there, the brass shed, and just south, north, east, southwest of the brass shed down here. as I told you last time, this is 2019, so most likely these trailers aren't around in recent time. And I know people can jump in and say, oh, well, what do you expect? Oh, why are you not using this? Well, first of all, this application has it all in one spot, okay? In terms of markers, putting them down, it's all in one spot. It's easy to operate on. Using these other external websites for maps and stuff, one, the image quality is very limited. In other circumstances with other websites that might have the aerial images, it might be of only certain locations, and also I don't know if you can put markers on those sites, and I don't know how easy it is to operate, whereas here it's all in one spot at the cost of certain things not being present in time. But nevertheless, we did look at this area in the past, okay, so I don't need to talk about it too much, but just in case people haven't seen it, the coordinates bottom right corner of the screen, a few miles away from the brass shed, which is interesting, where you see number 7 is the brass shed. Just past that, going further north, so straightening out going north, is, as said, the grain shed, as you see. Down that way is Dylan's farm. So whilst you've got this like outpost, well, it's not an outpost, but a little camp, I guess. Who's living here whilst observing everything that's going on around? At this moment in time, 2019, Jim Brenner's trailer is still up and running in Montello. Dylan's trailer at his farm over that way past Sun Tunnels is not visible, so it wasn't there in 2019. There is an RV at the grain shed in 2019, so that could be Dylan's, okay? So who is at number 29 then at the same time? Who is living here? Random people that work with Dylan, work on his farm, work for Dylan, or is it somebody else? Do any of you know? Leave your own opinions in the chat, because it's kind of important, this, just to get an idea of who else is present, because this is the thing. It's described as a ghost town, it's dead, it's very silent, not many people are around. But then Candice Cooley, previously in the Heavy D interview, she said, oh yeah, there's all these trailers scattered around with people. And it's like, well, if you're wording it in that way, then it's not as much of a ghost town. I guess it depends how you look at the language, but yeah. As I said, 2 trailers, 2 cars, 2 quad bikes. So could this be Chase Venstra, maybe? Or Don Hatley, maybe? I've not been able to see Don Hatley's living location, because I don't know if he lives in a trailer or like a farmhouse. Maybe I might have gone over it in this video earlier on. If I have, feel free to leave a timestamp down below, because that could help. But yeah, it's just interesting how at this moment in time, even though it was back then before Dylan disappeared, you had stuff going on. What I will do though is at some point I could go back to this spot and check the time travel thing and see how long it's been there for. If it's temporary, long term, etc. So I can take that into mind, okay? Right, is there anything I've missed out in between? Yes, this black marker down here. I don't know what it is. Once again, you got those like lines spread out all the way around the radius. It could be a waterhole, but it looks filled in, or it looks like someone's put the plug on it. You see what I'm saying? Black, dark, and then something grey in the middle. So I don't know if it is a waterhole or a dried up one. Leave your thoughts down below. But yeah, kind of unknown with that one in my mind. Did I miss anything out at all? Nope. Container we showed you. Yep. Right, so I guess we move on to the final spot. Yep. Number 30, right here, which is northeast of the grain shed. We've got circle farming land there. Down here, interesting. Few more attachments, pieces of equipment lined up in order. Little box there. And then 2 RVs parked up by the side of each other with one truck of some sort. Interesting. Now, if we look at this farmland here, it's one of those where I guess it's electronic maybe. It must be for it to move. And you see how long it is. It's that, do you call it an irrigation thing? It's for watering the ground, and it's on wheels as well, as you can see. And it covers a lot. Now, I do want to bring a point up right now because it does remind me of something. I might be completely wrong, but remember on Dylan Round's TikTok page where he was on the farmland recording and the ground was kind of red, and then he was recording one of those irrigation or water sprinkler systems exactly like that. And I couldn't see any others around in the area. So was Dylan's TikTok video recorded here on this land? Because it's the only one I've seen which has that long device within, a certain area. It's not far from the grain shed or where Dylan lives over that way. So did Dylan stand on this land and record it? Because it looks like that could be the case. Patchiness there. Interesting. Oops, low battery. I hate it when it does that. But yeah, it just reminds me of like the landmark, This is where Dylan stood at one point. I might be completely wrong. Maybe that video of Dylan's was when he was working at a different farmland, but when was that, his TikTok video? Was it like 2019 though? Or was it? No, I'm sure it was 2020 or 2021. So it must have still been on the same land. So this must be the spot. Leave your thoughts down below. Is this the spot where Dylan recorded his TikTok video at? Because it looks similar. You've got like a tractor there. It's weird how it's like light grey, this area. I don't know why it's light grey. It might just be the dodgy colouring and filters. Just looking at the surrounding area. But you look at this bit. Another like little compound with fences, as you can see. And then this bit here is just like wood storage. It looks like there's like a little roof or something, and underneath it is like light coloured stuff. So it could be a log storage, but then again, there's not really many trees around. Could it be other types of resources? I don't know. It just looks like kind of man-made, like a storage unit. You can leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think this is. But yeah, I think that might be it for the analysis of Lucin. You see all those markers? Whew, that's a lot, isn't it, to get through? And we managed, okay? So yeah, that was pretty deep in terms of all the locations looked at. I mean, there was quite a few, a fair few different farms nearby or on the outer skirts, quite a few containers, quite a few ponds, and the odd few little dodgy places of interest which could be abandoned. So there's a range of stuff to look at and investigate. Sure, some of it might have already been covered, but I'm sure there'll be at least 1 or 2 things which have not been checked off. Treat this video as a checklist, like returning hikers, explorers, investigators. You want to tick things off. You need coordinates. This video provides it, okay? Now, I've got bad neck ache. I'm stiff right now. Yeah. Just 'cause I'm looking down while I was doing the video. 2 hours, I think. 2 hours this video. This is the longest video in history on my channel. The interesting thing about it though is I wasn't expecting Lucin, in terms of the amount of places analysed, that many, 30 plus locations looked at over the likes of Montello, in which, I don't know how many I made there, maybe 20, 25. You know, there was a bit more population there because you had an actual town, you had more farms there and stuff, and yet Lucin seemed to have more. You know, when you look at it zoomed out and you look at Lucin, you think dead, empty, vast, desolate, and yet when you zoom in, there's like layers of depth, layers of detail, and smaller things up close which reveal there is more going on, despite what people say. Certain things might change with time, obviously, the odd trailer, vehicle, but in terms of the structures, the sheds, the barns, certain farmland will remain, as we've seen with Montello back in time. It stuck back to 1999 all the way up to present time, or recent time at least. So it's not going to disappear anytime soon, okay? So if you saw anything, if I missed any details, feel free to leave the timestamps down below. If there is any other locations you want me to look at on maps, feel free to, you know, leave bullet points down below, either with the coordinates or like a rough description. For example, oh, this shed is northeast of Dillon's, which is 5 miles away. You know, something like that. It is helpful. That's like how it was worded with the chop shop, and I followed that and I found it, so it is helpful. So I guess coordinates aren't always needed, but just a little rough description, okay? As said, I will do the chop shop more in depth in a shorter but future video, okay? Park Valley as well, look into that, okay? So I think that's it for now. Appreciate it if you managed to watch all the way through, because it is long, no doubt. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.